Hello, you're welcome once again to your program NTA Business Matters, where we explore the width, the length, as well as the depth of business, and you gain insight that can help your businesses run profitably while impacting on the environment positively. My name is Stephen Ipalabo Lawson. Businesses is not just about profit. It also entails people, it also entails processes, and definitely an environment. And how much impact you're going to have on your nation is part of what we're going to be exploring on this week's edition of the program. Let's have a business update. As is our culture and business matters, we invite a distinguished guest to help us do justice to the topic of the day. And our topic is impact investment and the role of public-private people partnerships. And my guest is no other person than a seasoned business leader, filmmaker, and sustainability professional with keen interest in women empowerment, youth development, access to quality education, and better healthcare. With 2 decades of corporate experience, she has built expertise in brand and marketing communications, strategy formulations and execution, team management, process improvement, strategic partnerships, and business expansion. She's currently overseeing all operations and initiatives at the Sterling One Foundation, a social change vehicle focused on tackling the root causes of poverty in Nigeria. As a movie producer, she uses her work within the media and creative space to raise awareness about gender issues, while supporting young girls through mentorship, providing business advisory for very early stage entrepreneurs, and supporting climate actions initiatives in coastal communities. She has received various awards in the social impact space, including the Leadership Impact Award in Nonprofit Management at the CSR Reporters Philanthropic Awards on Social Impact and Sustainability Practices, and was named in the Virtuous Africa's Top 20 Women of Impact in 2023. Ventures, I meant, and I'm talking about no other person than Olapeju Ibekwe, the CEO of Sterling One Foundation. How are you, Peju? You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
How's the business been so far, especially in the impact space?
Very good, and growing.
I imagine that we need a lot of these kinds of businesses to be able to have great impact and for us to be able to drive the whole narrative and agenda of the Nigerian business environment to a better place. Won't you agree?
I completely agree with you.
Great. Now let's start this up. First and foremost, what exactly is impact investment and why is it very crucial for sustainable development in Africa, perhaps with the localization of Nigeria in mind?
Thank you so much. So impact investments are investments, as the word says, but these are investments into businesses, communities, subnationals, nationals, countries that have the goal of delivering measurable impact. When I say measurable impact, I mean impact on the people, improving the human development indicators, ensuring that it touches the lives of people within communities, and yet will also deliver financial return.
That's great. That's great.
So it is not just prioritizing profit, but it is prioritizing profits and impact. It brings to life the concept of the triple bottom line.
Great.
Planet, profit, and the people.
And the people. It's important because a lot of businesses these days being carried away by so much of profit actually leave negative impact on the environment. But one we wonder, are these some of the trends or opportunities that we see in this space? Is it happening here in Nigeria? Is there an adoption of that kind of thinking, especially when it has to do beyond the profit aspect of all of things?
Of course. Of course. There's so many businesses that are prioritizing impact beyond just profit. As a matter of fact, when you talk about the environmental, social, and governance regulations that's currently a trend globally, it ensures that companies have to think about
Great.
impact
True.
have to integrate impact indicators in their business strategy. So you have to integrate ESG into what your business operations would look like, what your business strategy would look like, because eventually you realize that it's actually good for business. It improves efficiency in the supply chains of how the business is run. It ensures that you have excellent goodwill, not just within the organization, but also within the communities where you operate.
That's true.
So it ensures that you have profits not just for today, but profit in the long run. It's a concept of sustainability.
Yes, that sounds very interesting, because when you look at that, you imagine the SDG goals and what the role of the PPPP, now as the case is, will be in helping to drive the attainment of all of those goals. It should be one of the things we should be seeing more in Nigeria. Shouldn't that be?
Well, we know that there have been public-private partnerships for the longest time.
True.
In Nigeria. So many initiatives have been birthed and are scaling on the basis of public-private partnerships. But I completely agree with you that there's a lot more that needs to be done. Our HDI indicators are one of the lowest
True.
in the world.
In the world today.
So if we're not seeing the kind of results, I mentioned initially measurable impact, if we're not seeing the kind of results we want, then it means that there's still a lot more we need to do. And that's why I really love the concept of impact investment, bringing together concessional financing and with private capital to unlock more capital from different capital sources towards impact issues within the country and within our communities.
Quick, Page, let me take you to the area of health, for example. I mean, it's one subsector of the economy that I'm very passionate about. In 2020, we had the impact of COVID. As a matter of fact, a lot of private organizations, as the case might be, played critical role in that aspect. Do we see a correlation between impact investment and the health systems, especially how that can help drive better health indexes for Nigeria in particular?
Definitely. That was actually one of the topical issues at the Africa Social Impact Summit that we co-convened with the United Nations, held just last month at the Code Convention Center. Was convened, yes, by us and the United Nations in Nigeria, but over 40 partners combining public sector, private sector, and the development ecosystem. Lagos State Government was actually a public sector partner, and that is a perfect example of a partnership. And we had a bold action session focused particularly on health, where we brought together commissioners of health from about 15 subnationals.
Fantastic.
Across the country. To make clear decisions, to first of all, dialogue.
The conversation is very important. I mean,
first of all, dialogue, because we have to disagree to agree first. But after we agree, then we go into action. And health is extremely important when it comes to impact investment. And one area of investment that was decided on even at the Africa Social Impact Summit was telemedicine.
Oh, great.
Because
great.
we realized that telemedicine gives people in hard-to-reach communities across the country access.
Fantastic. I wonder how prepared are we, especially in corporate Nigeria, towards the emerging pandemic that is going to perhaps be happening in some few years. I mean, that is all part of SDG health awareness, as the case might be. And do we ever have those kinds of conversations within your space?
Of course. We actually, there's an organization set up by the World Bank, and it's a consortium of funders that set it up. We've had conversations with them already. They're actually preparing to be able to better respond to any other.
That's true.
It's better respond to any other pandemic.
Because there's actually been a prediction that it's actually a cyclical affair. It's going to happen after some years. We hope it's not going to happen again in our lifetime, because you and I know what the experience was.
I completely agree with you that while we hope it will not happen again, what is wise is that we prepare.
That's a fact.
We prepare in advance. So if by any chance it does happen, response will be faster, more efficient, more lives will be saved just because we are ready.
Great.
Or hopefully we will never experience.
Listen, let's talk a little bit about climate change. I mean, that's an area I'm very passionate about. I anchored a program on climate change, and that exposed me to a lot of the negative impact that we see with rising temperature, as the case might be. And there's no conversation with regards to impact or ESG without integrating climate change, whether it's in terms of resilience, whether it's in terms of project and all of that. When we wonder where the role of partnership, especially when it comes to driving, the consciousness of companies adopting climate-friendly, programs, projects, and strategy, in your own experience as the cases.
Thank you so much. So at the Sterling One Foundation, interestingly, at the Africa Social Impact Summit last year, one of the key outcomes of the session that was on ESG meaning environmental, social, and governance, was the significant ignorance within our space on what is globally required, what the compliance issues are, what the regulations are. And you will also realize that these regulations are constantly evolving globally and also within our climb here. And what this means is that they have to integrate climate relevant solutions, climate relevant processes, strategies in their businesses. And this can cut across HSC units, CSR units, CSI units. But we know that when it comes to ESG, it's not about a unit. It's something that has to incorporate the entire business because everybody is responsible. When it comes to that.
We're going to go on a short break. As soon as we're back, Business Matters continues. All right, if you've just joined us, this is Business Matters, and I'm in the studio here with the CEO from Sterling One Foundation, Madam Olapeju, if I'm getting that right, Ibekwe, as we're exploring the topic that focuses obviously on the impact investment, as the case might be. One of the questions I want to ask you, ma'am, has to do with models. And I have here, how can models like Egypt's health insurance system be adopted or adapted to other African countries to improve healthcare access? I know we talked about healthcare access, but let's also look at some of those models that has actually been implemented in other parts of Africa that are actually helping, whether it's models in healthcare, whether it's models in climate adaptation, whether it's modeled in technology. One of the things we need to also address is the fact that, Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world. You don't agree with that? So you imagine some of those models actually. So let me hear your reaction to that.
So I believe in this country so much.
Fantastic.
So whenever I hear anything negative about my initial response is, But then, that said, data cannot lie.
True.
So based on the data, there's a lot we need to do on some critical indicators. For health insurance, we all know that universal health coverage in the country is not where we desire it
Not at all.
to be.
Not at
A lot of people still pay out of pocket
True.
for healthcare services, which is supposed to be an anomaly. So there is a need for everyone to be intentional, which is why we're really glad at the Africa Social Impact Summit, because we had a pre-event investors roundtable with Lagos State, our host city partner, and the executive governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, confirmed that he had put on a veto that everyone resident in Lagos State had to have the health insurance.
Yeah, I think of late there was a news report that says that it is mandatory. They have the,
exactly.
They actually went
and
into,
so if you have, if your organization provides health insurance for you, then it will just be an add-on. But everyone has to have health insurance. And this is critical because it also helps the government plan better for the people, the relevant healthcare services that we require. And you had access to all the basic healthcare services. I think it's just a wise decision.
It is.
For every citizen to ensure that they get such an insurance
as Egypt, as a matter of fact, rolled up that nature.
Yes, and that is the Egypt example. Is a good thing you mentioned that. I think it should also be enforced. there's something about having a law. There's another thing about enforcing that law. But we know we also have other indicators we need to talk about, and that's about the disposable income of the average Nigerian. So we have to take these things hand in hand. We cannot look at anything in isolation. So the relevant enabling environment has to be created to make it easily affordable for the average Nigerian to sign up to this health insurance provided, to ensure that, yes, they have the health coverage. And this is not just about Nigeria. I think it is a model that also should be applied across the continent, because we know health care, access to quality health care is not just a Nigerian issue or an Egyptian issue. It's across.
It's across, and I think it helps to address poverty in the large run, because
of course, reduction of mortality rates,
yes,
the children dying unnecessarily will be reduced. Even adults dying unnecessarily will be reduced, and it also helps provide a pool of funds for the government to provide the kind of quality services that we have. But we cannot take away the role of the private sector.
Absolutely.
Also,
I mean, they're the major creators of jobs, so to speak.
So I think it is first for the government provision, and then enforcement, and then provision of also an enabling environment for everyone to actually be able to easily
be able to afford. And I think we're running late in that sense, because at this point in time, it's going to help address so much in terms of the negative narrative we have, especially in the health sector, regardless of some of those challenges, nevertheless. But a compulsory health insurance scheme, I think, is the way to go, in my own opinion. But
and to speak to that, while it will help address it, that's why I am glad by what Lagos State government has started. We know it is a journey, and it will definitely not happen overnight. It would be great if other subnationals also take the lead in this regard. And like you mentioned, other countries within the continent also adapt, because I realize that it is never one size fits all.
Not at all.
They can now adapt the material,
customize that to your own,
to their own peculiar situations and circumstances.
Now, I want to ask this question before we are able to wrap up, which is the sectors that have the highest potential for impact investment in Africa, and why is that so? I know you have mentioned health. We've not talked a little bit about agriculture. That just basically comes to mind. But, I mean, what are those sectors in your own experience?
Agriculture is critical.
Oh, it just went out of my mind.
Agriculture.
We need the food.
So the situation, the recent...
Oh my. You don't want to talk about that.
It has brought home the fact. It doesn't matter how rich you are, everyone is experiencing it, and they're talking about it. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are. Because the significant change in the prices of food is affecting not just the food, but goods and services. So it's having this lag effect on every other thing you're spending money on. To the point, that sector critically needs impact investments. And it is good for business and good for the people, because we will pay for food. We will definitely, everyone will pay for food.
Absolutely.
So if we can intentionally invest in climate-smart agriculture, drought-resistant seeds, efficient irrigation systems to ensure that whether it is rainy season or dry season, those plants can still grow. To ensure that we make investment for storage, processing, distribution, to reduce post-harvest losses. That sector is extremely critical for life.
Yes, and because there is a contribution aspect, especially when it has to do with your national determined contribution to climate adaptation, as the case is. Because, like you rightly said, if you adopt agric systems that are climate friendly, that itself can help us be able to trade some of what we're able to capture and measure.
Exactly. We as an organization, we actually recently planted 10,000 trees.
Wow.
Economic trees.
That's a lot.
Avocado, oranges.
Fantastic.
These are trees that are sources of nutrition beyond being sources of reduction of carbon footprint and supporting environmental sustainability. And over time, because every school has a minimum of 400 trees, can also be a source of economic viability for those schools.
For the schools
because
themselves.
the produce can actually be sold
So that's true.
for some income, and just can be an alternative source of income. The point I'm making is, my recommendation to those that are doing programs is, let us be intentional to look at those programs holistically to ensure that you are not just addressing one area, because you also realize that the 17 SDG goals are quite interlinked.
Yeah, they are truly interlinked.
They're quite interlinked. If we're going to talk about our beach adoption project, which we're doing in the coastal communities, while we are ensuring that the plastics do not get into the oceans, we've empowered the youth and women to know how to recycle, to know how to upcycle, and to know how to earn from reducing waste and managing waste properly. What does that do? It helps to put food on their table. It helps them to pay for health insurance. It helps them to pay school fees, while at the same time they are reducing plastic waste getting into our oceans.
And they're obviously very, very responsible contributors to the economy, as the case might be.
Of course.
In that way, they're actually partners.
Of course.
I don't want to end this interview without asking you about some of the challenges that is faced by a lot of African entities in adopting impact investment. Because if these challenges are not obviously surmounted, then it obviously means that we are all just engaged in a talk shop. And I know in Europe or in America, they've adopted a lot in terms of ESG principles to be able to run their processes. I think that there is also the case that if you need to even source or access funds from certain international funders, your ESG documentation must be at par. So what are the major challenges we are facing here, and how do we surmount all of that in adopting impact investment for the benefit of us all?
I mentioned ignorance.
Ignorance. Okay.
Initially. And I would just say that that's one area that we have chosen to address. We actually have a session focused on the ESG workshop. And it doesn't end as a physical event. It's an all year round series. And what do we hope to achieve? Close the ignorance gap. As a matter of fact, when we started it this year, we had participation from over 21 countries.
Wow, that's quite good.
And that tells us that the gap in ignorance is not just a Nigerian issue. The subject matter, the body of knowledge is fast evolving. So there's also need for people to be abreast of the updates. And that's an area we have chosen to prioritize. Trust. When you bring partners together, there's an element of distrust. Are we sure? Are we not sure? Especially because we know impact investment has to do with not just delivering on the impact, but also delivering on the financial return. Data availability. We need to be able to see your track record to have more confidence in the investment decision. Those are a few challenges I would want to mention because of the limitation of our time here, but those are being addressed. I would just mention this, that last year at the Africa Social Impact Summit, between then and now, there's been an investment of over 3 billion naira.
Fantastic.
To support over 50 primary healthcare centers across the country. To the point, the investments are coming in. The challenges are being surmounted, and they will continue being surmounted.
All right. One statement. What do we look forward in the future?
I would say that we should, in our own personal capacity, also look at how we can impact our environment positively. We invite private sector organizations, public sector organizations, and development ecosystem to work together in their own capacity, and then can also work with us to do what we need to do to ensure that the HDI indicators in Nigeria and Africa are far better, and we hopefully speed up the achievement of the 2030 SDG goals.
All right, thank you so very much. I've been talking with Madam Olapeju Ibekwe. She is the CEO of Sterling One Foundation. I've been exploring the topic, impact investment and the role of public-private people partnerships, as the case may be. There's so much we can bring to you on this particular segment of the show. Please stay tuned. Business Matters continues after the short break. Well, viewers, you've heard it all. It's important for us to be able to embrace all of the principles that can help us be well positioned to take advantage of some of the emerging opportunities that the world is bringing to our doorsteps. Impact investment is obviously one of it. And the more we adopt some of these ideas, these principles, this mindset, the better our operations definitely will be. My name is Stephen Ipalbo Lawson, and this has been a wonderful ride with you. Please, till we come our way again, enjoy the rest of the week. Bye-bye for now.